Hey everyone, we're back this week with the dark side of fandom, so stay tuned. So, we've all been there, right? We enjoy something, whether it be a musical group or a musical artist, a movie, a TV series, a book series, and we're looking for people to talk to about it. Social media has made it to where you can find your people and, discuss your favorite content to your heart's content, right? Or at least that's what I used to think, right? And that's what this episode is actually about, the toxic side of fandoms. The number one thing that comes to mind is that when dealing with sports fans, most people really recognize that sports fandom has many toxic traits, right? Whether it be racism, sexism, misogyny, all of the isms, right? They recognize that pretty quickly. And as a person who is not into sports, what you hear from people that have different interests besides watching a sport is that, oh, yeah, that's crazy over there, but I don't participate in anything like that. But after these past few years online, I'm here to tell you that a lot of your fandoms are all the same. I would normally say it's kind of funny, but it's really actually sad. So, one of the first things that happened to me, particularly a little before the pandemic, was getting on anime Twitter, right? And I was like, here's a bunch of people who like anime, who enjoy reading manga, and usually anime watchers, manga readers are pretty chill, you know what I mean? I won't have to deal with all of the hierarchy that goes on in sports fandoms um, because it's great. I was not prepared for the level of misogyny and sexism that goes on in the anime community. And this is just from me being on Twitter, right? So I had not realized that at that time in 2017, my favorite anime, Bleach, had been off the air for about 5 years. And bringing it up really sent people, particularly young men, into a blind rage. Like, how could you like this show that was canceled? You're an idiot. Nobody likes this. Nobody cares about you. We're not talking about this kind of thing, right? And it was sad because one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the women that I was able to become friends with and still remain friends with to this day, um, we all had to use different Twitter icons, right? Like from your favorite show and these things. Because the assumption is that everyone online is a man, unless told otherwise, right? So it didn't matter that my Twitter name was that of a woman's name or whatever. The assumption was always that you were talking to a guy. And that tended to make people's comments towards me less harsh. Once they figured out I was a woman, they would say all kind of racist, misogynistic stuff. And that was in 2017. And in the past 9 years, that has gotten much worse, like to the point where I don't even engage really with anime content. Like, if you disagreed about Goku being the strongest, um, if you disagreed about talking about the big three, um, and like, let's go ahead and say, all of the conversations were centered around the same thing. Goku is the strongest. Everybody had a variation of the big three. How Bleach didn't belong in the big three, and it was the same conversations over and over again, right? You couldn't have a conversation about an anime that wasn't One Piece, and you always had to defend who your favorite characters were when it came to watching anime. And particularly for women, constantly having to be quizzed by men about, did you actually watch One Piece, or did you actually watch Bleach, or what's actually your favorite of the big three. Because we want to quiz you. You're just here because you're pretending to like something. And there's nothing worse than being a fan of something for a long time and being told by people that you're just here for male attention. And I think women across the board understand me when I say that. It's very jarring to have a conversation with a man about something that you enjoy, and the first thing that they do is start quizzing you. Strange. I was used to that sort of behavior in the sports world, right? Are you really a Cowboys fan? Are you really a Knicks fan? When did you start watching? Blah blah blah. When did you start liking football? And that, to this day, that's a question that I get. So I'm so used to it that it's been happening to me since I was 8. I'm so used to people asking that. I'm not shocked. I did not think I was going to have to deal with that in the anime fandom, though. You know, so that was strange, and to be taken aback and all of these things. And so very quickly, when I joined Twitter in 2017, um, and by all accounts, I was late to the game by that point anyway. But I met some really great women. But a lot of people, instead of seeing us or having conversations about great shows or talking about great shows or making recommendations or telling people why you like stuff, it just became an argument as to what was the best. And if you were a Bleach fan, it was a waste of time. I have to say, the about face that people have made, because the Thousand Year Blood War is out, it's doing numbers, it's getting a movie, so to speak. It's like people don't remember that they used to treat you badly because you like this show, now that it's back and everybody's talking about it. Um, there was a lot of shipping and shipping wars, especially when it came to Bleach. There was a lot of canon policing. Um, Gatekeeping is something that happens in all fandoms, and I'll touch on it a few times in this episode. But you're not a real fan unless you read and watched everything that has to do with this thing. The canon policing, where you're having discussions and telling everybody that their interpretation of something is wrong, right? And I get that we're in a literacy crisis and you want people to read and you want to be able to discuss what you read. But constantly putting people down because they don't agree with your interpretation is kind of weird, right? Then we moved into like harassing manga artists, harassing actors, writers, and it's really weird. Like, the level of people who left anime Twitter was high because we all kind of left at the same time. And now that I kind of dabble on Twitter, I realize that a lot of the people that I used to interact with aren't there. So, um, I mean, y'all ran Kubo off. He doesn't really post on Twitter anymore. And I was like, this is not a love of anime. This is not a love of content or storytelling or this particular media. Y'all just want to control it and tell other people what they can and can't do. That's not fandom. And as I pointed out earlier, it's not any different than what they do in sports. But okay. The other thing that I had gotten into probably about 3-4 years ago was the NSYNC or Justin Timberlake fandom. And for me, as a kid, I had always loved NSYNC. I had always loved JT. And I just wanted to be able to converse with people about music that I liked. The first group that I was allowed to listen to growing up, the first CD that I purchased growing up. And I was naively believing that, anime fandom was toxic, but I'm going to find a fandom that I could be a part of. And it's not going to be this weird thing. Well, I know now from making this episode that that's not actually the case. It started out fine. You meet a lot of people who have great stories to tell, uh, who they've met, where they've met them, pictures that people were sharing. I thought it was great, you know? And then it became a very, very toxic thing because when love turns into ownership, things get weird. And in a lot of these fandoms, they start with love, but that love over time twists into entitlement, right? Um, you know, begging people to drop music, calling them names when they don't. Everybody all of a sudden became a PR expert or a media expert, even though, as we all know, we're in a literacy crisis. We're definitely in a media literacy crisis. But, you're on the internet with people, whether you're talking about, and I've seen this in a few fandoms, whether it be um, the NSYNC JT fandom, whether it be Bruno Mars and that fandom, and you realize you're on the internet with people who aren't having conversations with you about the music, right? One of my favorite things that my sister has said, and she's a huge Beyonce fan. I went to see the Cowboy Carter tour, one of the best shows I've ever seen. But she said to me, she described having a conversation with her friend where the friend said, I don't particularly care for Beyonce because she only comes out or talks to you when she has something to sell you. To which my sister had to say, yeah, that's her job. She's an artist, You don't think that you and her are genuinely friends, right? You do realize that this is an artist-fan relationship. And the girl seemed shocked and kind of offended that my sister said that. Like, yeah, when else is she going to talk to me? I don't have her phone number. We're not friends. You know what I mean? So understanding that a lot of these celebrities or entertainers are just that, entertainers. They're here to sell you their music or to sell you their movies. And you either buy them or don't buy them and move on, you know? But what I have found is that a lot of people really think that the term is parasocial, but I want to stay away from using that word because that's a word that online has been run into the ground that people throw back and forth toward each other when really they're both dabbling in it, you know? But there's this weird relationship between artists and fans where they think they get to tell the artist what to do, get to tell them what songs to drop, get to tell them who to work with, get to tell them different things as if they're the purveyor of the career. Like, yeah, y'all are either going to buy it or you're not, and that can make or break people, but you don't get to dictate what people can and can't do, particularly in their private lives. I've seen people on Twitter who are still bringing up um, old relationships that people have been in. Like, these relationships have been done for like a decade and a half. Both parties are married to other people, and y'all are still bringing up a relationship like it was yesterday. Like it somehow slighted you that these two people who you don't know broke up. It's weird. And it's not teenagers. Like a lot of people will say, oh, it's Gen Z, it's Gen Alpha. Yeah, when we were young, we read magazine articles. We kind of believed everything that was said in it, and we went with that, right? But at 40, 45, if you're still hanging on to, oh, this person is running around with this person or whatever, and using whatever gossip magazine as your research and your facts, then I think that we've not grown up, right? I think that that sort of thing is what you leave for teenagers to do, and then at some point we figure out that these things are not true or only a kernel of the truth, if that, right? And then you move on. You use them for entertainment purposes. I can't tell you how many people when Justin got arrested for DUI, um, couldn't wait for that video to come out, the police cam video. Well, when the video comes out, people were complaining in the comments that all of these people made up this talking point about how this is going to ruin the tour. And it was fun, it was catchy, everybody was saying it. And then when you watch the police video, it's not in there, right? And so there were people in the comments that were like, I was waiting for him to say this, and he never says it. Like, I'm completely heartbroken, I'm this, I'm that. And like, it could be hyperbole, right? But so many people were like, I genuinely thought he said this, and he didn't. And I was thinking, why would you have thought like this is a word for word quote based on something that was printed in a tabloid magazine? Like, did we not know that these aren't hard and fast facts? Did we not know that? I guess not. One of the things that I also noticed was the parasocial bonds. It really increased hostility towards rival fandoms, and even this aggression towards other fans who were in the same fandom. You know what I mean? There was a lot of infighting when it came to who's dating who's married to who. You know what I mean? And this is where a lot of the misogyny came along, right? Sending death threats to people and all of these things. Like, I had seen a lot of death threats towards new partners of artists that had been together for years, their children, because of a relationship that's almost 3 decades old. These two people are not together, but that doesn't matter. You've ruined my perception of what should have been, and therefore I'm going to send death threats to your wife, to your children, all of these things. And I remember I actually tweeted at a person and was like, why are y'all who claim to be feminist and pro-women and pro-children, why are y'all on here sending death threats to someone's wife and their children? And she responded that he deserved it. Right, but you're not threatening him. You're threatening his wife and his children, who really don't have anything to do with anything. So, it didn't make any sense, and reasoning with them also didn't make any sense. So there was that. And I was like, honey, you're mad that two teeny boppers are not together anymore. And I mean, this happened in a few cases, because I remember when Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez broke up, and they were sending death threats to Selena Gomez, and I was like, no matter what time it is, we can blame things on social media because it makes things more in your face. But some of these behaviors have always been, right? Y'all get away with saying a lot of anti-Black things about Beyonce and her husband. And a lot of these things are used as joke or internet fodder or something that can be laughed at. And I'm like, when did we take anti-Blackness and make that funny? I don't understand what Beyonce sees in him. I don't get it. I don't think you need to. It's not really your business. Either you're listening to the music or you're not. You know what I mean? And it's become this thing where, like, we want approval from other people who we don't know on the internet. So celebrities are an easy target, whether you like them or not. I do also want to discuss, like, why a lot of people use celebrities or the hatred of celebrities as their activism, right? There's a lot of things that can be done in your community and in the world around you. But what tends to happen is, oh, I don't listen to Jay-Z and Beyonce because they're demonic. And that's your deal for the day. When talking about celebrities' income and things like that, everybody has a list on what celebrities should donate, what they should give their money to, whatever. But then when asked what you do in your community to help others out, there's crickets. So is your activism really activism, or is your activism just hating celebrities? Because I need to know how that helps people in your community. Now that you don't listen to Jay-Z's music or Beyonce's music or, Justin's music or whoever's music, now what? What are you doing in your community to help out other people? And it's usually nothing, right? And for me, I don't know, that seems hypocritical to me. You know, I never want to defend people that I don't know, but some of y'all's behavior is like out of pocket. And we've seen it recently with what's going on with Chloe Bailey. And at some point, celebrities have to say things to defend themselves because y'all are out of pocket, like day after day for years at a time. And now everybody wants to police the celebrities' responses. But we've not talked about the way that y'all behave online and the rude things that you say to people. I think at some point in the Knicks championship, I think it was game one, that some people on the sidelines said something to Jalen Brunson, and he almost never really has a reaction when people are saying things to him. Because you've seen plenty of videos throughout the years where people are like, oh, you're a ball hog, oh, you're this, you're that, you're a foul baiter or whatever, whatever. And his response to that is really like, whatever, you know? But I still wonder what out of pocket thing those people said to him, because he really got annoyed. And you could see it in most cases in sports fandom where people are like, this is out of pocket, because we remember Malice at the Palace and all of these things. I also remember like a brawl breaking out at a Boston Bruins game because people really take it on themselves to think that they can do whatever. Even in the World Series 2 years ago, I think, when the Yankees fans tried to pry the ball out of Mookie Betts' hand. I am a Yankees fan. I was like, yo, that's crazy, So, sports fandom is on a whole nother level of toxicity, and then you add in drunk people, and all kind of things happen. But I think Malice at the Palace really showed that you can't just push people and throw things and do different things, we behave badly, and expect other people, because they make more money than you, to just deal with you. So we can say what we want about that. People should have a decorum. People should be more patient with others. All of that is true. But if you're throwing things at me, and you don't have any control over your own behavior, you can't expect me to have control over mine. So, it is what it is. I think there's a lot of instances where social media allows y'all to say a lot of out-of-pocket things to people, and y'all think that's entertainment, but these are actually people's lives. So, and what ends up happening is there is less of a fun thing for people, right? Because, like I said, in the anime fandom, y'all ran off a lot of mangaka from talking to fans online, talking, voice actors, anybody who's working on a project, directors, all kinds of things, from talking about their projects online, talking to their fans directly. I see less and less fan artist interaction online, and you see less and less fan artist reaction in real life too. Like, yeah, you have to go to cons, you have to pay a bunch of money, you could take a picture. But there was a time when people were doing meet and greets and doing different things, and but y'all are maladjusted and sometimes violent and rude. You know what I mean? I've been to a couple of conventions, whether it be about anime, music, movies, whether it be about romance novels, whether it be about sports, and y'all are all the same. There's always people who are out of pocket, who are rude and aggressive, who are talking loud, doing different things. It's weird. And then what tends to happen is that you get less and less of these things. You get only where people are putting out content, either you buy it or you don't, right? And then y'all complain about that. You know what I mean? You've run these people off, you alienated them, you've harassed them, you've policed who they can and can't be with, who they can and can't be seen with, who they can and can't work with, all of these things. You've policed all of these things, and now they just kind of drop things off and let y'all consume it or don't consume it and go on about their business. There was a time when you would get a whole lead up to an album release, an announcement for a tour, all of these things. These people would go to TRL, these people would go to 106 in Park, and you saw it coming, right? I remember vividly when Justin and Jay-Z did a couple of press junkets where they were talking about getting the Legends of Summer tour up and running. So I knew when to look for that. Nowadays, and I want to say it's partially fan behavior that has to do with the fact that they just kind of are like, yeah, I'm going on tour. The tickets go on sale tomorrow. Y'all better be there or be square. You know, it used to be several places where you could do meet and greets and different things, but y'all are out of pocket, you know? And so in the grand scheme of things, fandom hurts everybody because over time you get less and less. You get more time in between albums, right? And that's not to say that I didn't agree with people who were like, yeah, people are dropping albums every 6 months. That's I don't know. Some of them may or may not be good. Maybe they need to take a little more time in between albums. But people are going away for 5 and 6 years at a time. And y'all are like, well, why won't this person drop an album? Why won't these people work together? Why won't this, that, and the third? Because when they do, you tell them that they're only here to sell you something. You tell them that they're culture vultures for working with people. And the standards that you have for your own fave, when somebody else does it, it's a different standard, you know? This week on Twitter, it's been about how there are certain producers that they want people to work with, and it's okay if those people work with these artists, these producers, these rappers. If certain other people do it, they're only doing it to get their black card or to use their black scent, or, you know, and the terms just get more derogatory over time. But it's a wild thing to describe working with black artists as just trying to get black people into the tent, as if black people are too stupid to realize that they're being pandered to. But also, which entertains me, is this notion that when you don't support something, and I have a couple of examples of this, when you don't support something and then that thing goes away, then everybody starts complaining. There has to be a conspiracy. There's something that's keeping these things down, you know. Is it, or did you not support this, you know? So revisionist history is where I've seen a lot of people try to assuage their guilt by not supporting something, you know? And I've seen it more often than not, most recently with the movie You, Me, and Tuscany. Everybody's talking about how great the movie is now because it's on different streaming services. But when it was a movie that came out on streaming services that y'all could pay for, you didn't think it was worth paying for. When it was in the movie theater, you didn't think it was worth going to see. So the movie was probably in movie theaters around here. I think I saw it 3 times in theaters, right? And I was trying to encourage people online, like, go see it. You know, we'll get more stories out. And as a creator, you don't know how hard it is to get your product to the public. Everybody thinks they do, but unless you're a creator who is writing books, doing music, trying to write scripts for movies, nobody has any idea how hard that is to have happen. Most stories always go from, it took me 10 years to get this to the public, or it took me um, 10, 15 years to get somebody to look at it. So everybody thinks this kind of happens in a vacuum, when really a lot of these things occur at minimum over a decade, you know? But I mean, there was nobody that I talked to either online or on any of the social media platforms or, at my job or whatever that felt like, why should I go and see this movie? And it was more than, I just don't like romance novels, right? Now, mind you, all of these people online before were talking about, we want different kind of romance. We don't want to see the same type of people in these romance movies. We want different stories with different characters and different looks and feels and different things. They gave y'all that, and y'all didn't go out and see it at all. That movie was in movie theaters for, I believe, 30 days. 30 whole days. There were kids' movies that were in movie theaters from April until just last week, which would have been August, in the movie theaters all summer. Like, I've seen, even in this day and age, movies last much longer than that. And it was a great movie. I know it because I've seen it 3 times, and I purchased it when it came out on streaming. But and people are watching it now on different streaming services for free, and everybody loves it. They think it's a cute movie. It's their new comfort movie, blah, blah, blah. But everybody thinks that art exists so that they can take it in for free. But your personal faves don't get paid in your tweets. They don't get paid by you arguing with other people online, right? So this movie could have done much better. And so when the powers that be or companies don't want to invest in stories like this, they'll use the fact that nobody came out to the movie theater to see it. Not enough people came out to the movie theater to see it. And then the cycle will start all over again, where you're demanding these stories, talking about you're going to see them, and then you don't actually go see them. Right? So, yeah. Same thing with, buying music, buying CDs. Everything can't be a conspiracy, And it's weird how in revisionist history, one of their favorite things to do is get the blame and place it on somebody that they don't like. It's cool to not like this particular character, so therefore the undoing of people's careers has to do with him. When really, you're looking at these people, and a lot of it, you were there for. You're listening to people complain, and I'm not talking about people who weren't there, because that's a separate phenomenon that I realize, right? Like, you'll have a conversation with somebody who wasn't born for 10, 15 years after this, and they're telling you non-factual things about something that you've lived through. And you're like, that's not accurate at all, actually. But this is a different type of revisionist history, where we were all there when so-and-so's album came out, when this TV show dropped, when this book came out, and none of you wanted to listen to it, read it, none of that. So here we are 20 years later, and y'all are talking about how people's careers were sabotaged, how there was a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy is that y'all didn't buy or support this person. And where their career is at shows that. You still don't, right? Because in music society nowadays, you can see in real time what people are listening to, right? And don't hand me that line about how, streaming numbers could be manipulated and all of this here. I believe that to be true. But for people who don't have anyone streaming, what is the excuse? Y'all got YouTube, y'all got Spotify, y'all have got Apple Music, y'all have got all kinds of things, right? And we're looking at certain people's albums not being listened to at all. That's not sabotage or conspiracy. That's y'all making the decision. And then when y'all make a decision about what you don't like, companies make decisions about what they're going to keep putting out there. And revisionist history allows people to pretend like they were always part of a trend when they weren't. You know, it allows them to pretend that they were always on bandwagon when they weren't. I stand by that 100%. All right, so let's get into anti-fandom when hating becomes your hobby. You know those people who like to hate watch things, hate watch people. You have a celebrity that you don't like, but anytime somebody is talking about them on social media, you're in the comments. I don't think I knew people put that much energy into things. Like, you ask somebody what their hobby is, right? You ask somebody what it is they like to do during the day. You find that a lot of people don't like answering those questions because what they like to do during the day is try to bully celebrities and bully people who like celebrities that they don't like, right? So nobody's going to say that out in the world when talking about hobbies. It's weird. You know, I have celebrities that I don't particularly care for, music artists that I don't particularly care for, movie stars that I don't particularly care for. I think to myself, oh, I'm not going to watch that movie. That's it. When other people are talking about how they like these people, I go on about my business. But the anti-fandom crowd loves to be in the midst of things they claim not to like. And I know in the NSYNC JT fandom, we started calling them fans. They were all over content that had to do with members of NSYNC that they claimed they couldn't stand. They were all in the comments on things. They were everywhere. Everywhere. And almost nothing about their page had anything to do with anything that they actually liked. Anybody who's trying to treat hatred as like a personality trait, it's weird. It's the same obsession. It's the same energy as the fandom. You know, they want to build communities around disliking something, which is strange. But it keeps the conflict between them and the people who actually like the thing or like the artist or whatever, constantly going. You know, and like on some other social media platforms like Threads or Blue Sky or other things, we've had to tell people like, I know you think this gets you paid here or this gets you attention here, but it's not going to get you anything here. But I don't think that being contrarian or running out to tell people how much you don't like something has anything to do with being paid. People have always done that, especially when you're in the sports fandom. They love telling you, I don't really like sports, And now I'm having a conversation with somebody about the Knicks or the Yankees or the Rangers. Well, I don't really like hockey. Then why are you here? You came all the way over here to tell me that? Go away. That need for attention and to take attention from other people is deeply rooted in there. These people were in the anime community too. They always wanted to have a discussion with you about what you knew about Bleach, what you knew about One Piece, what you knew about whatever anime you were watching. It was almost never something that they watched in their entirety, but they wanted to argue with you about it. And then when they didn't know anything about what you brought up, they started attacking you, right? And so we know in terms of literacy rates, when a person is out of their depth or when the person doesn't know what they're talking about, they immediately start attacking you, right? You look this way, or you're big and fat, or you're this, that, and the third. You can't actually have a genuine conversation about what you watched or what you read because you didn't do any of that. You didn't engage in the content. You know what I mean? And it's the same for the people who swear up and down that there's a conspiracy. When asked, you're going hard in the paint for this person, The first question I asked is, oh, did you buy their album? Did you buy their new album? Did you listen to it? Like in this day and age, you don't even have to buy an album. You can listen to things. And you'll find that the bare minimum effort these people still don't do while trying to tell you that there's a conspiracy against their favorite person. They can't tell you a song that they like. They can't tell you a movie that this person was in that they liked. But y'all are just in it to argue. And that's okay. Let's say the quiet part out loud, you know? But yeah, we would get deaths. I remember I had a guy I was talking to that I met on one of the dating sites, and he asked me, what was your favorite anime? And I said, oh, I really enjoyed reading Bleach. I really enjoyed watching Bleach. And I cannot wait for the rest of the 1,000-Year Blood War. That man came back and said, oh, you like Bleach. Now, mind you, I have a picture on the profile of me in a Bleach t-shirt at a convention with a guy dressed as the Vasta Lorde. And that's like the main picture, right? And you looked at my profile, saw that I like Bleach so that you could ask me that question, so that he could then tell me, yeah, I never liked Bleach. I thought it was stupid. Didn't you think it was redundant? This, that, and the third. Now, you asked me what I liked. No, I didn't think it was redundant, obviously. Then you think the conversation was circular. I thought this, that, and the third. So what happened was, I said, well, Ichika was going through things with his mother's death and what he perceives to know about himself, what he's learning about, what the grown-ups in the show know but haven't told him, everything involving Kisuke, all of these things. And I said, did you get like this theme from this and this theme from that? And he was like, no, I didn't finish it. How are you having a conversation being condescending to me about something that I like that you didn't even finish? It's fine that you don't like it, but why are you trying to rain on my parade because I do? That's anti-fandom at work. And you went out of your way to match with me to tell me that you didn't like it. Okay. Whatever. And lastly, we know that most people online are bots. Now, I think the last estimate was about 57 to 60% of people online are bots. But I think a vast majority of people who are engaging in arguments are actually people. So that's something that needs to be said. But also, it's important to understand that the algorithm loves chaos. So it's going to push the worst parts of fandom. So conflict, fan wars, harassment, outrage, extremes. I've noticed that if I post something, like even when this podcast episode is done, and I say, hey, this is what I spent the day doing. I edited this down because I enjoy getting my thoughts down and getting them out to the world. It's not going to go that far, right? But if I say something condescending or inflammatory, then I'll get times 10,000 the amount of attention. And most of the time you wonder, when people are saying contrary things, do they even care about what they're talking about? Usually the answer is no. Everybody knows a contrarian, a person who hates everything, especially if somebody likes it, and they really have no rhyme or reason for why they don't, right? I came across a thread the other day where the girl was talking about, hey, I started watching The Big Bang Theory and I'm really enjoying it so far. How come nobody told me about it? Well, that's because everybody was watching the show, because we kept seeing the numbers for the show go up, right? Whether it's on the Nielsen boxes, whether it was on streaming services or whatever, you can see what people are watching in real time. And as a person who has worked in software and software development, you can see what people are opening, what they're spending their time doing, right? Contrary to what they're telling you online, right? So for many years, The Big Bang Theory was the number one show in the country, but everybody you talked to said they hated it. Everyone said they hated it. And everybody had different reasons. I've had conversations with people where they're like, oh, they're making fun of nerds, they're making fun of the smart people, this, that, and the third. And I was like, yeah, no TV show has ever done that, you know. And when I say, like, I watch Frasier, most of the show is about him being made fun of because he's smarter but also pompous, more pompous than everybody else. You know what I mean? That setup that The Big Bang Theory has, with the guys being smart and having to surround themselves with somebody who is street smart and this, that, and the third, we've seen that before. Why do y'all keep acting like this is a new thing to be outraged about? Everybody hated it all of a sudden. Nobody liked it. Nobody was watching it. And I kept having to point out, somebody's lying. It can't be the number one show in the country, and even in other countries at some point, if no one is watching it. Does it have points of contention and things that need to be picked apart? Sure. And maybe I'll do that in another episode later on when I have time on my hands. But a lot of y'all aren't telling the truth about the things that you like or don't like, or what you care about, or whatever, because you just want to have a hit tweet or go viral or be talked about or whatever. And at some point, we're going to have to unpack how that's changed the way we interact with people in the real world, right? Because you have all of this to say about music artists online and, movies, movie stars, and different things, book authors and things like that. But all of these people who you claim were canceled online have gone on to do sold out shows. Do they know that you've canceled them on Twitter or what? All of these people who y'all claim y'all don't like, I've seen all of you at these people's shows. All of you. So it is what it is. So we know that the human cost is that any sort of authors, artists of any kind are driven offline. Marginalized groups stay marginalized. I can't begin to tell you how many of these fandoms I've gotten into as a woman, and a woman of color, a black woman, and the level of racism, casual racism and disdain in all of these fields, whether it be sports, whether it be anime, whether it be the JT NSYNC fandom. I'm not shocked anymore. I'm just disappointed, And so somebody did a meme the other day where they were like, enjoying something, and I've learned the key to enjoying something is doing so without being part of a fandom. And I don't think there has been a real thing that I have noticed these past 6 years. So it's true. People don't get a chance to be their full selves or love things in its entirety anymore because you're made fun of, you're laughed at, and all of these things. I saw a lot of TikToks where people were talking about, so now that Bleach is out and the final parts of the stories are out, now everybody's a Bleach fan. When I first got on Twitter in 2017, you couldn't tell people you were a Bleach fan because they literally talk shit about you. And would do so for days and weeks at a time. So we know that it turns community into conflict, joy and anxiety. Fandom is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a creative outlet. It's supposed to be where you go to talk about your comfort shows or your comfort books or your comfort albums or whatever. But it's not been that for a long time, and it's become hostile. And once you get hostility in there, people lose what they came for, which was, a connection over something that was supposed to be fun. So that's it for today. I'll talk to y'all later.